We're okay to go, Angus.
So the meeting's available now, is it?
It is, yes.
Thank you. Welcome to the Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel meeting. On behalf of the panel, I recognise the traditional custodians of the land, the Ku-ring-gai people, on whose land we purport to meet. The order of business is published on the website, and the usual order of business rules apply in relation to the conduct of the meeting. The on-demand viewing of each KLPP meeting will be available until the holding of the subsequent meeting. The recordings of this meeting are copyright protected and cannot be reused or reproduced without the approval from council. I have received no apologies.
Sorry, Angus, we do have an apology from the director, Michael Myerson.
Oh, do we? So I'm sorry, I hadn't realised he'd apologised. Yes, the director has apologised, and that is to be noted in the minutes. There are 4 panel members, myself as the chair, 2 expert panel members, and a community panel member. None of the people on the panel, nor any of the relevant staff, have indicated that they have a conflict of interest. I will introduce the panel members in a moment and ask them to indicate a quick background in respect of their experience relevant to sitting on this panel. I will call the speaker. Once that's been done, he will have initially 3 minutes to speak. There will be a sound which will indicate the conclusion of the time. I'll just first of all introduce myself. My name is Angus Talbot, well, that's the name I go by. My qualification to be the chair of this panel is based upon my legal background as a solicitor, subsequently a barrister, and ultimately a judge at the Land and Environment Court for 15 years. The other panel members are well able to introduce themselves, and I will now ask them to respectively do that. And first of all, I'll ask the community representative, Ian Arnott, to introduce himself.
My name's Ian Arnott. I am a resident of the Ku-ring-gai area. I live at South Turramurra, and I have a background in planning as well.
Thank you. Larissa Ozog, you were there somewhere?
Yes, good afternoon.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Larissa Ozog. I'm a town planner and project manager, worked in local government, state government, and in private practice for over 25 years, and sit on a number of panels, so understand the procedure and the process. So thank you.
Thank you. And the final panel member that I asked to introduce is Greg Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name's Greg Flynn. I have over 40 years experience as a town planner in the development industry in New South Wales, at state government, local government, and private practice. And I also have sat on planning panels since the inception in 2009. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we only have one person to speak, and that's Mr. Lee Hughes, representing the applicant. Mr. Hughes, can you hear and see the proceedings?
Yes, that's all fine.
Yes, thank you. There are a couple of preliminary points that we would like you to address, which have become apparent to us as the panel during our briefing discussion. Firstly, the original application that was lodged with the council, the development application, refers only to one property. It doesn't does not mention the adjoining property, which has become incorporated in the development as far as we've been able to understand it. And I think that's number 28A. Is that correct?
26A.
Pardon me. The property 26 enjoys
26A, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's right.
26A. The original development application, when lodged through the portal,
Yes.
did not mention 26A, and subsequently the advertisement in relation to the receipt of the application inviting submissions from members of the public also did not mention 26A. So would like you to address that if you can, if you've got any further information that might help us to understand what occurred in that respect. So perhaps we could deal with that first if you're in a position to do so.
Sure, I'm not a land surveyor or solicitor, but I can, from an
It's a clerical matter, really. What actually happened? Do you recall whether that situation was ever rectified?
Yes, we approached 26A. The property 26 enjoys a right of way over 26A for vehicular access. We approached 26A to get their permission to lodge the DA, understanding that because we would be doing work on or using that right of way ultimately for the project. That wasn't forthcoming in that first DA. We held further discussions and negotiations with 26A or representatives thereof, and then they were able to give us that letter that permitted us to lodge the DA. Those discussions on site, we talked about the relocation of the existing fire hydrant that our property benefits from, the removal and relocation of some entry stairs, the modification and repositioning of letterboxes that for 26A on the side of the footpath to make it safer for them, to put all the services underground rather than on the power poles that are running down the side of the existing right of way. And all of those discussions facilitated the letter forthcoming to lodge the DA.
So in other words, there's common ground that
yes,
the development involved
yes,
the use of the adjoining property.
indeed.
The problem that we foreshadow is that that's never been formally recognised in the application that was lodged, and consequently there has been no advertisement so far as we are concerned that the development application relates to that adjoining property. What's your comment about that?
Well, as I said, I wasn't aware that we had to include 26A in our nomination of the DA, given that the works that we're proposing are wholly on our site, and that the works to relocate services would be held separately with 26A.
I thought you, and I might have misunderstood you, I thought you indicated that there are works which are going to occur on 26A.
There would be, but with 26A proposing to do them, and we pay for them.
Can you just roughly describe what those works would be?
It'd be putting the...
I think we know that, but I want to hear it from you.
Okay, it would be relocating or removing the overland power pole or power lines and putting them underground in under a concrete encasement. It would be
within 26A,
within the right of way.
Yeah,
and it would be also demolition of the stone entry pillars that restrict the width of the driveway. It's the relocation of the hydrant booster valve set that would then be reconnected to our building. It would be concreting the driveway or the right of way. I think that probably covers.
Well, the use as an entry to and fro, traffic going backwards and forwards will change as well, I think, won't it?
The width of the driveway will increase, and we have proposed with our DA to provide a separate right-of-way in favour of 26A to allow unfettered access down a 6 metre wide driveway rather than the 3.5 to 4 metre wide driveway.
And the widening of the right-of-way would give the capacity to use part of 26A for access.
Absolutely.
All right. The other point that
sorry, just also to add, it's not just the right of way, but it's also a 1.2 metre wide footpath, dedicated footpath alongside that driveway, that
in
26A.
In 26A.
In 26.
Yeah.
So
in 26.
In 26,
yeah.
So we're dedicating not just the width of the increase to the width of the driveway, but also a 1.2 metre wide footpath, and also an area of our land that allows 26A to put up for sale signage and to relocate their letterboxes to the side of the footpath so they're not standing in a driveway collecting their mail. So it's meant to make it safer for everyone.
It's important for all members of the panel to understand what is going on, obviously, and I'll just ask the individual panel members whether at this point, concluding this particular issue, whether they have any questions directly for you to clarify in their own minds what the position is. Mr. Flynn?
Mr. Hughes, did you mention some stairs, some amending stairs or fixing?
We're able to transition the footpath at the base of the existing ramp that serves 26A. At the moment, they've got a ramp that goes up to their front door, but it's got a step at the bottom.
An elevated ramp.
Yeah, so it's not really a ramp. You can't get anything up there.
An elevated walkway, is that right?
Elevated walkway, that's right.
Yeah.
We would be able to then transition the bottom of the driveway in that driveway works so that we can get a flush entry to that ramp, which should make it easier for everyone.
Yeah, so the works that are in 26A involve some works on the relay that's transitioning for the walkway.
That's right.
As well as all the other things you mentioned.
That's right.
Thanks very much. I've got no further questions.
Ms. Ozog?
Yeah, so can I just confirm all those works you've just mentioned, are you seeking approval kind of for those works under this application, or are you looking at those separate to the works? Can you?
We're happy for those works to be included as a condition of consent. We're happy to have that as a separate application. We can make that as a separate application.
Right.
I'm just unsure as to how the best way of going about it. We're happy to do the works.
Yeah, I get it.
At our cost, but we just don't know the process that would be best served.
Okay, so can I ask you, if none of those works were to go ahead and you've got an approval on all the works that you have submitted under this application, as in works within the boundary of number 26?
Yes.
Can the existing right-of-way be utilised the same way that it does now, or do your works fundamentally change the way that, I know there's encroachments and things like that which are a pain and they need to go and what have you, but if this application was approved all over number 26, it didn't touch the right-of-way, will that function and work?
Yes.
It will.
Yes.
So you can use the existing right-of-way. As I come today, I can go down that right-of-way, narrow right-of-way, and I can go down and there'll be your driveway connecting, like your basement can connect onto that right-of-way. Yes. And the fundamental difference is that those structures will be still obstructing, and you've got some limitations, and you may not have a nice pathway and you may not have some other advantages until those works may be serviced and resolved at another application, let's say hypothetically, or
Yes.
an NCAT or whatever you do.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
that's what I just want to understand, whether this application can stand alone without any works to the right of way or any works beyond your boundary at number 26.
Yes, it would be certainly our preference to do all of the embellishments that we've talked about. We think it's going to be better for our development, better for the neighbours, safer. You know, we'd like that work to happen. However, if it's just contingent on just our site, then we have a legal right of way and our driveway connects into the existing levels, and it can function.
But the
Thank you.
develop-
That's all on that.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Ogg. Just following on from that, nevertheless, what you're seeking approval for is work within the adjoining property.
Yes,
That's the subject of your
I
application.
suppose that's the issue.
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Arnott whether he has anything to raise with you.
Only just one question. You did mention concreting of the driveway was proposed. Is there any regrading or change to levels that would impact the access into your basement that would occur within that driveway?
No, I don't believe so. It would be really just the local sculpting to make the elevated walkway work, which would raise the lower corner of our ramp, but it functions anyway. It's still within code, and it's just flatter than the other side of the driveway, so it'd still be fully compliant.
Thank you.
The other issue that I would like you to address, and we have asked the council to address, is the subject of the clause 4.6 application.
Yes.
And the calculation of the floor space.
Yes.
You've taken one number as a consequence of your calculations, and the council has taken another number.
Yes.
How do you justify the one you're relying on?
I suppose it's how the FSR is calculated. We've taken anything that is not code-related parking and access to code-related parking out of that FSR calculation as per the model provisions. The garbage room and circulation space and plant areas, we've included all of that in the calculation. I assume this is the 1 metre above natural ground or existing ground level calculation that we're talking about. I suppose the other element to that 4.6 application is that if we look at the whole of the land owning, which is 1,680 something square metres, we are fully compliant with an FSR. If we look at just the land that is R4 zone, then we're 0.85 to 1. However, we're nominating that, given that we're proposing to dedicate the SP2 land to the public at no cost, that there is certainly benefit to the public, or public benefit in doing that action, and we're looking for that to be considered in relation to the assessment of that FSR and the GFA calculation.
Have you identified where the difference lies between your calculation of the FSR and the council's calculation?
I haven't as yet. I haven't understood the calculation that they've made, and whether they've just taken it as the full basement as opposed to what the model provisions nominate.
We'll follow the same procedure again in relation to these issues, because I want each panel member to be satisfied in their own right. Mr. Flynn, have you got any question?
No, not at this stage.
Ms. Ozog?
Yes, I wanted to ask you, you might not be able to answer this straight away, but do you have the benefit of the survey plan at all next to you or near you? Because I don't have that in the package.
Okay.
And I just want to know what the existing floor level of the building is.
Yes, I can look that up.
Because, and I'll get then council, because I'm I'm just trying to work out, obviously, the existing level and then what is the basement level, and how much of, and just get an idea of that, because it's not clear. And I think the plans, they show obviously the existing level falling at the back, but I don't think that's quite right, because there's a building on there now. So the existing level will be the finished floor level of the ground floor, I presume, unless there are any excavated areas.
I'm just trying to find the.
I don't want to delay. Like,
No, I have the drawing, and I shall zoom in on it and be able to tell you. The floor level is RL 107.44.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, okay, and that's, yeah, because my question is the RL at the basement, the lower ground, is 102.7, so it's the existing levels actually seems like 5 meters higher. But anyway, that's something I will take up with council, but thank you, and I'll clarify that. That's all I wanted to understand with the GFA calculation. Thanks.
Okay. In the drawing pack that was submitted with the revised DA, there is a height of buildings diagram, if you like, where we've transposed the topography 11.5 meters up. We obviously don't have the benefit of what the ground level is doing underneath the floor slab, so we've allowed for depressions in slabs and, you know, the interpreted fall of the topography, but that shows that the incursions on the height of building is pretty minor.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Arnott?
Nothing from me at this stage, thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Hughes, it's your opportunity to make your submission.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. I think we've demonstrated through this whole development process that we're very willing to accommodate what we can to make things better for the neighbours, but also for the public realm. We did, as we nominated at our last meeting, made some significant changes to the building to address the elements raised in the last report. To be honest, we've been a little frustrated at the lack of engagement from the planners in this last step to address any minor inconsistencies we've got to take those arguments out. We would have preferred very much to have a bit of an ongoing relationship, so that by the time the meeting comes about, that we do have an endorsement for the project. I suppose the landowners are a little bit frustrated that they're proposing a modest apartment project at a time when housing availability within 400 metres of a station is highly sought after, and indeed very much a government focus from federal and state governments. We're proposing a reduction in the GFA of the existing development of over 160 square metres. We're proposing a reduction in the footprint by nearly 400 square metres, and an increase in landscaped area, increase in setbacks. We're reducing dramatically the overshadowing of our neighbours to the south and the west. And they're just a little bit frustrated that it looks as though we're headed to yet more delays and more cost and more aggravation in order to resolve this. We'd dearly like the panel to request that we have another meeting with council to resolve some of these issues, and maybe address the outstanding letter from 26A that they consent to the works that we're proposing to be lodged with council. And in that way, that could expedite this proposal and seek an acceptable resolution for all involved. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I'll just go through the panel again following that submission, and thank you for it. Mr. Flynn, do you have anything further to inquire?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hughes, the report identifies 10 grounds for refusal.
Yes.
did the council come back to you with a lot of these things appear to be things that could be sorted out pretty quickly, I would have thought.
Indeed.
Were you advised of these grounds of refusal before you saw the report?
No.
No one's actually sat down with you to go through these things, and especially the 4.6 clause of request, because that's really important. If that doesn't stack up, it's really hard to approve a development.
That's
So
right.
the 1 to 10, you really haven't had the opportunity to sit down and go, hang on, we've got issues. Let's work our way through why we've got variations and the like, etc.
Indeed. No, we haven't had any correspondence or reach out.
And you sounds like you'd like them, if you had the opportunity, to have the matter deferred so you can actually sit down and resolve those things and try and get a way forward.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mr. Hughes.
Ms. Herzog?
Just a final, we had a bit of discussion obviously with stormwater. It's also an issue of obviously getting.
Indeed.
Can you just maybe explain what you've done to try and address the issues with the stormwater?
Indeed. We engaged a subterranean surveyor, if that's a word, Shore Search, who have long experience in the Sydney area with this type of work. They tried to enter the pipe that services that the existing building is connected to a stormwater pipe that runs down to the lane at the bottom of the street. I can't think of the name of it. But it has been operating for forever without obstruction, without flooding, without problems. We're proposing to use exactly the same pipe with a reduced amount of catchment. We put a survey line that I think got about 30 metres into the pipe before it took a fairly severe turn that the tractor couldn't negotiate. We then had them access the pipe at the bottom of the street, and they could see that water was flowing. But we weren't able to, without going onto that adjoining property, digging up their landscaping to try and find manholes and, just essentially needing to muck around with someone else's, quite a length of someone else's property. So we thought that we're not changing the status quo. We're making the status quo better than exists. We thought that, well, certainly with the 30 metres that they've surveyed, the pipe was in great condition. There were no obstructions. There was no deterioration, no cracking. We're surmising that without getting the yet 2 or 3 more properties involved, that we've done the best that we can without significant disruption to a lot of people.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Arnott?
Yeah, just one thing. You mentioned that you hadn't had any pre-warning about the reasons for refusal, and I understand that you haven't had that dialogue with council officers, but they are pretty much reasons for refusal that were given in the first report that went to us, aren't they?
And I believe that we addressed the majority of them. We certainly addressed the setbacks to the upper level. We modified the displacement of the units so that we brought the platinum level dwelling a floor below, so that we were able to reduce the top floor on the street frontage. We saw there was no point in reducing the top floor from the rear frontages because it was already in excess of 20 metres setback from the property. On the northern side, we reduced the setback as well, so that there was a greater setback there. We explained that in the facade treatment, we have a motif that's part of the architecture that in a graphic spells out 26, and we said, but there's no floor spacing behind it. You can't get to it. We reduced the balcony of the top level so that you couldn't get by another 3 metres. We felt that out of all of the points that were raised in the first refusal, that we had addressed all of those issues. Our calculation of floor space didn't round up each of the internal components, so we didn't round up the resident component and then separately round up the visitor component. We rounded up, well, we have to provide this amount of car parking for residents as a net number, as a number, and then here's another number that we need to provide for visitor. Add them together, and we rounded that up, which was 16. Council has resulted in 17 because they've rounded up both figures. So we continued discussions with 26A. We got that resolution, and we all believe that we're happy on that front. And I'm happy to try and get another letter from 26 that says yes, we're happy for the concrete to be driveway to be concreted and the stuff to be moved. We've already discussed it. They're happy. That's why they gave us the letter to lodge the DA. So we can certainly address that. The landscaping, we had that modified. We failed to understand why a 50mm deep swale would affect any trees. We had the arborist comment on that, and we lodged that letter that says, well, it's inconsequential. We adjusted deep soil planting. We adjusted the access to the front door. We thought we'd actually addressed everything, but
Right.
obviously,
and there was no. I understand there was no discussion from then. And can I just clarify? I think what I heard was your request today is for the panel to defer, for you to have discussions with council officers to seek to resolve these issues. Am I correct in that?
that'd be my preference, rather than if it's refused, then we've got a whole different avenue that we'll need to pursue, and no one wants to go that way. You know, we want to get everyone on board. We want this to be, a rational discussion, and that that if we're proposing a building that's of smaller scale and bulk than our immediate neighbour 32, why, that doesn't have a top floor setback, and neither does the one at 22, that all of a sudden we're those sorts of things are just, they seem a bit arbitrary in some ways.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. What happens now is that I will close the public meeting, thanking you for your cooperation and help and understanding, in particular in responding to the specific matters put to you by the council, by the panel and the individual members of the panel. And we will go into a session for the purposes of making a final determination in relation to the matter. That will be done this afternoon, and the result will be published on the council's website, hopefully within the next 24 hours. That's basically what's going to happen.
Okay.
So thank you, Mr. Hughes, and I'll now close the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
You.